Hi everyone, Mike Mal here. You know, the last time I mentioned to someone that I'm an atheist, and this is a true story, the person responded with the question, does that mean you worship the devil? And for those of you who know what an atheist is, you'd be surprised how many of these perverted, ass-backwards definitions there actually are. Let me try and shed some light of knowledge on an often misunderstood topic. And I'll tell you a secret about atheists. The number one thing you need to know about us. According to me, of course. First things first, what is an atheist? Like I said in the intro, you'd be surprised how many people have all kinds of deep-based and impaired misconceptions about a very elementary definition. Let's take a look at what that definition is. According to Google, an atheist is a person who disbelieves or lacks belief in God or gods. That's pretty good. You know what else? Nothing else. Nothing's what else. That's all there is. There's literally nothing more to being an atheist than not being convinced that there are any gods. There are no rituals. We don't worship the devil. There is no atheist manifesto, and it certainly isn't an atheist worldview like so many people seem to think. That's because atheists are in all areas of social persuasion, on all areas of the political spectrum. They're straight, gay, black, white, Asian, and so on. There are atheists that are kind and compassionate. And then there are atheists that are assholes. Atheists are literally as diversified as humanity itself. Because as I said, there's nothing more to being an atheist than not being convinced that any gods exist. Nothing else. I'll tell you a secret now. What's the number one thing you need to know about atheists? It's this. We don't want to be right. Oh, sure, there's a billion and one of these militant-type atheists that want to pound on my head right now, saying things like, even if their God was real, I don't even part of it, man. And it's like, no, just no. It doesn't work like that. You see, if now you're going to die, for whatever reason you know that now you're going to die, and for whatever reason you're given the option to A, die forever, or B, wake up later and see all the people you love again. I don't care how militant your atheism is. If it came down to it, ain't no one picking A. Everyone wants to cheat death, be with their loved ones again, pet their lost animals, renew friendships, love again. But here's the thing. We don't believe that that's actually going to happen. And I think that's where the crux of the matter lies, understanding our not believing. I'll explain what I mean in just a moment. Now, in my experience, most atheists, not all, but most, don't make the claim that for certain no gods exist. There may very well be a god on the other side of the universe hiding under a rock. Hey, I don't know. Some of you may argue that this is not atheism, but agnosticism. Well, it doesn't exactly work like that. Nobody is just an atheist or just a theist, or just an agnostic for that matter. Not technically speaking. I don't really care about labels, but by definition alone, you're either an agnostic atheist or a Gnostic atheist, or you're an agnostic theist or a Gnostic theist. I'm not going to get to the specific definitions of this for this video, and I will make another video down the road about it. But my official label is agnostic atheist. Agnostic because I can't make the claim 100% for sure that there are no gods, and atheist because all the gods that have been presented to me, I'm just not convinced. That brings us back to what I earlier called the crux of the matter. A very simple concept, but the value of that statement seems to always be misconstrued. First of all, before we get started, let's get one thing straight. You can't just choose what you believe. Often people will argue with me on this point, but if you really think about it, you will have to agree. Consider this. For this video, I'm wearing a black t-shirt. And now that I pointed it out to you, you made a conscious observation. I'm sorry, but you're not able to turn off the video and simply choose to believe that it's red. It's just not possible. Either your brain is convinced of something or it's not. Of course, you can pretend really, really hard. I think it's red, I think it's red, I think it's red. But your brain trusts the data provided by your eyes and knows full well that the t-shirt is black. Back to us not believing. Allow me to better illustrate what I'm talking about with an example. Let's go back in time to ancient Greece. As you probably already know, in Greek mythology, Aphrodite was the goddess of love. If you wanted sexuality, fertility, a close friend, a soulmate, or just love, you would pray to her. But it's a story about how Aphrodite came into existence that I would like to cover right now. Most people don't know this story. What happened was Aphrodite's father, Uranus, I know, that's Larry's, was in a sword fight with his foe, Cronus, which unfortunately Aphrodite's father lost. In the battle, Cronus sliced off Uranus' genitals in one fell swoop. His penis and scrotum, still intact, flew into the sea where it just floated away. As his genitals floated down the sea, foam started to gather around them, gathering more and more the further it went. When the package finally reached the bank, out of the foam sprout out Aphrodite, goddess of love. Now, as much as we call this story mythology today, we have to remember that there was a more primitive time in humanity where people actually and genuinely believed this story as literal truth. So now let me ask you a question. What would it take for you to actually and really believe this story? I mean, what would someone have to say to you in order for you to take this story as undisputed truth? I'm sure you'll agree that without a ton of evidence, you cannot simply choose to believe this. I hope you can see where I'm going with this, because it's the exact same thing with us atheists. We're not trying to be assholes. We're just literally not able to believe what you believe. And don't think that your story is any less spectacular than the Aphrodite story. A snake talked, a man lived in a fish for 3 days, a donkey spoke Hebrew.
Shalom.
Let me take it a step further. Work with me on this. Supposing somebody that's dear to you comes rushing to your door with an urgent message, and I'm requesting that you really work with me on this one. Think of someone that's dear to you and give this thought experiment a chance. She comes over and is visibly disconcerted and says she has an urgent message for you. She tells you that she's discovered that Zeus is in fact the true god of gods. Remember, work with me here. You probably think she's off her rocker, but she's dear to you, so you do listen. She pleads with you to believe her. You try to reason with her, asking her, well, how do you know this is true? She tells you that there's proof of all this right here in the Odyssey and Iliad, written by God's holy messenger, Homer. And you tell her that you read part of that book in high school and that it's filled with fantastic supernatural stories. But she begs you, please take this copy. She warns you of impending doom if you don't believe. And she tells you that Zeus cannot be understood with human logic, but by allowing him into your heart and having faith. I'm sure you can see where I'm going with this. Again, we're not trying to be assholes. We're not trying to win some kind of battle of the wits. We're just literally incapable of believing your story, just like you are literally incapable of believing your friend's story about Zeus or that story about Aphrodite. When helping people understand atheists better, there's one area that I want to cover that's very important to me. An area that saddens me that it needs to be covered at all. It's the topic of love. You see, atheists love their children, love their spouses, their families, friends, etc., just like anyone else out there. We don't love any different. You see, I address this because there's a plague amongst Christianity today that says that without Jesus, you don't know true love. And I'm here to say that you are objectively wrong. If you're on the fence about this God thing, listen to me now. They are objectively wrong. We do not love any different. When my son was born, for example, I remember I would look into his deep brown eyes and think to myself, how is it possible? How is it possible that one human being loves another human being with that much intensity? Those of you children know what I'm talking about. Today it's a bit harder to gaze into his eyes because at 19 years of age, he sure likes to roll them at me a lot. But my love for him is still equally undying and eternal as it has ever been. Like I said earlier, it brings me great sadness that any of this needs to be said at all. It is heartbreaking to me that there are people out there who actually think that because I'm not convinced as they are, that somehow I love my family less than they love theirs. That somehow I love my wife less than they love their own spouse. That I love my children less than they love theirs. Well, it just so happens that I love my wife and my son more than life itself. I love my son and my wife. I love my family. I love my friends. I love my animals. And you're right, little boy. I I love life. I love humanity. It is unfair, dishonest, and quite frankly, cruel and arrogant to suggest that someone who isn't convinced of the same thing as you has lesser feelings than you. Love is not from God. In fact, even science has figured out what love is. Now, I'm not going to get into the cocktail of hormones that your brain experiences when you're in love, but we know that love is an evolved mammalian emotion to ensure the continuity of the species. We needed to love our children and spouse at the very least if our species was going to continue. It stopped us from killing our larvae. And we humans are certainly the most creative with our love. One could argue that humans have hijacked love, and now it's a human emotion that other mammals can use. It is a human emotion of affinity and attachment towards others. An imaginary friend is not needed to have ever-enduring, incorruptible love. And to be perfectly honest, I found that I love people more now as an atheist and a humanist than I ever did as a Christian. But that's another topic for another video. And if you guys remember to subscribe, maybe I'll love you too. Just kidding. I love you guys anyway. Thanks for watching, my fellow apes. Until next time, stay loving, stay skeptical.